The snow in New York City wasn't just falling. It was drifting, slow, lazy, like the whole sky had decided to exhale. It was Christmas Eve on Fifth Avenue. Most of the stores were closing up. Last-minute shoppers rushed by with bags, hunched shoulders, red noses. But the street itself, it was starting to go quiet. Ethan Cole walked next to his little girl, Maddie, one hand in his coat pocket, the other holding her small, mittened hand. His shoes were expensive. His coat was tailored, but the tired look in his eyes, that came free. Bluetooth in his ear, voice low, talking business, even on Christmas Eve. No, Marcus, listen, the board wants the merger. The press will calm down, we'll issue another statement Monday. He was a billionaire, a real one, tech, apps, deals, the kind of guy people read about on their phones and say, must be nice. But tonight, he wasn't Ethan Cole, CEO. Tonight, he was just dad. Trying to grab a last-minute dessert because he'd forgotten the pie. Maddie didn't care about mergers or press releases. She was 6. Her entire world was snowflakes, twinkling lights, and the promise of hot chocolate. She walked a little ahead of him, boots crunching in the snow. Her hat was too big, pink with a floppy palm on top that bounced when she moved. Daddy, look, Ethan sighed, half listening to Marcus, half to her. Yeah, I'm here, Marcus, Maddie, careful. Maddie spun around under a street lamp, head tilted back, trying to catch snowflakes on her tongue. The city looked like a Christmas movie. Store windows glowing, wreaths on doors. Yellow cabs sliding past in slow motion. For a second, even Ethan felt it. That little flicker of magic he hadn't let himself feel in years. He ended the call. Finally, the street felt softer without the business voice in his ear. Sorry, kiddo, okay, show me. What am I looking at? Maddie grinned. Her cheeks were bright pink from the cold. The snow, Dad, you missed it. It was doing a thing. He chuckled. The snow was doing a thing, huh? Yeah, like sparkles. You gotta pay attention. She grabbed his hand again. They turned the corner, heading toward their building, a sleek glass tower that rose above everything else. Ethan was thinking about the dessert, about whether the caterer had remembered the non-dairy option, about the email he still hadn't answered. He was not thinking about his life changing tonight, not yet. They passed a dark alley next to a closed bus terminal. Most people would have kept walking, eyes forward, head down, but Maddie froze, like somebody hit pause on her little body, her head tilted slightly, brows pulled in. Ethan kept going 2 more steps before he noticed the tug on his hand. Hey, you okay, SHH? She said it so serious he actually stopped talking. The sound hit him then, faint under the hum of traffic, a baby crying, not the soft, fussy cry, the full, desperate one. The kind that makes your chest tighten even if the child's not yours. Maddie dropped his hand. Dad, do you hear that? He heard it. He just wished he didn't. He turned his head toward the old parking lot by the bus terminal. A tall chain-link fence, a couple of cars scattered around, and in the corner under a flickering light a beat-up minivan, gray, one of the back windows covered in cardboard and duct tape. The crying was coming from there. Maddie didn't wait. Of course she didn't. She took off through the open gate, boots sliding a little on the icy ground. Maddie, hey, hold up. Ethan followed, his heart starting to pound. He wasn't scared of the place. He was scared of whatever he was about to see. As they got closer, the picture formed. The van's engine was off, no lights on inside. Just a thin figure in the front passenger seat, turned sideways, knees up, wrapped in a cheap coat. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun, face pale, eyes tired enough to tell a whole story without a single word. In her arms, not one baby, 2 twins, both bundled in mismatched blankets that looked more like beach towels than anything meant for winter. One baby wailed, face red, tiny fists flailing. The other whimpered, lips trembling, eyes glassy. The woman breathed warm air onto their faces, her own body curled over them like a shield, but she was shaking. Not dramatic movie shaking, real, subtle, miserable shivering. Maddie stopped right outside the window, breath fogging the glass. Dad, her voice was small now, not playful, not whiny, just worried. A security guard near the booth turned, noticing them. Hey, you can't be in here, lots closed for the night. Ethan lifted a hand. It's okay, give us a second. The guard didn't look thrilled, but he didn't argue. Maddie took a step closer, craning her neck. The woman in the van noticed them then. Her eyes met Ethan's through the streaky glass. Embarrassment, fear, a flash of pride, everything showed up at once. She cracked the door open just a bit. Cold air rushed in, the crying got even louder. Maddie jumped a little at the sound. Hi, she said softly. Are they okay? The woman's voice was hoarse. They're just cold, I'm trying. Ethan could see her hands now, red from the cold. Knuckles raw, he stepped closer, careful, palms open like he didn't want to scare her. You need help, she looked him up and down, the expensive coat, the polished shoes. She knew his type, or thought she did. We're fine, she lied. We won't be here long. One of the babies let out a sharp, tired scream, the kind that sounded like she'd been crying way too long. Maddie winced. She sounds like my friend Mia when she doesn't get snacks. But worse, she looked up at the woman again. They look really cold. The woman swallowed. The heater died, I'm trying to, it's just for tonight. Ethan glanced into the van. He saw a duffel bag. A grocery sack with a half-empty can of formula. No car seat bases installed right, no real winter gear. His stomach twisted. The security guard took a couple steps closer. "Sir, if she's camping here overnight, I gotta call it in. It's policy." The woman flinched at that. Her grip tightened around the babies. Maddie, without thinking, moved closer to her. "What are their names?" The woman hesitated, then whispered. "Ava and Zoe." Maddie smiled a little. "Hi Ava, hi Zoe, I'm Maddie." One of the twins hiccuped mid-cry. The other just stared with wide, watery eyes. Maddie turned to Ethan, her face deadly serious now. "Dad, yeah, we're not just walking away, right?" The whole world seemed to go quiet for a second. The wind, the traffic, the city noise, it all faded. It was just a billionaire, his 6-year-old daughter, a young mom in a broken-down van, and 2 shivering babies caught in the wrong kind of Christmas. Ethan looked at his daughter, then at the twins, then at the woman trying so hard to pretend she didn't need anything. He felt something move in his chest, something he'd been ignoring for years. This was the moment, right here. The kind that doesn't ask for a meeting or a contract or a press release, just an answer. Was he going to be the man he pretended to be in interviews, or the one he actually had to live with? Maddie tugged his sleeve again, gentler this time. "Daddy, they look like they belong inside with us." He took a slow breath. Whatever he said next, it was going to change all of their lives, and that's where this story really begins. "You have not enough humanizer words left. Upgrade your surfer plan." The security guard shifted his weight, breath puffing out in white clouds. He was done being patient. "Sir, I'm serious. She can't stay here. It's freezing. I gotta call this in." The young woman Riley pulled the babies closer, like she could fold all 3 of them into one body. She didn't look at the guard. She looked at the ground. Ethan's brain kicked into overdrive. Lawyers, liability. Headlines: Billionaire drags stranger off the street. Billionaire leaves homeless mom in the snow. No move was safe, not for his image, but Maddie didn't care about image. She only saw the babies. "Dad, they're shaking," she whispered. "Like for real shaking." Riley finally spoke, voice rough from the cold and too many long nights. "We'll go," she said quickly. "He's right, we were just resting. I'll drive around." Her fingers brushed the steering wheel. It was bone dry. No keys in the ignition. The van wasn't going anywhere. Ethan saw that. She knew he saw it. Their eyes met. For a second, the world shrank down to just that. A man who had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes, and a woman who didn't know how she was going to get through the next hour. He cleared his throat. "What's your name?" She hesitated. Then, "Riley." "Riley," he repeated. "I'm Ethan. This is my daughter, Maddie." Maddie lifted her hand and gave a tiny wave through the open door. "Hi, your babies are really cute. Also really mad." One of the twins let out another sharp cry, like she was confirming the statement. Riley tried to smile. It came out crooked. Ethan looked at the security guard. "Give us a minute, please." The guard sighed, looked at his watch. "You got 5, then I gotta do my job." He walked back to his booth, but kept glancing over. Riley shifted, trying to tuck the thin blanket tighter around Ava and Zoe. "I promise we'll move," she said. "I just needed them to stop screaming so loud. People were staring." Maddie blurted, "Yeah, because it's freezing. I'm cold and I have, like, actual pants on." Ethan took in the details. No car seat bases snapped in. No real coat for Riley. A grocery bag with a cheap can of formula. No plan. He hated that feeling. No plan. His voice came out softer than he meant. "Do you have somewhere to go tonight?" Riley's jaw tightened. "I'm working on it." That was a no. He didn't need a spreadsheet to read that. "Any family?" "Not here." "Friends?" She hesitated. Then shook her head quick, like ripping off a bandage. Maddie stepped closer to the door, almost right up against Riley's knees. "Are you, like, living in here?" Riley's eyes flashed, not anger at Maddie, just shame. "It's just for now," she said. "We're figuring it out." Maddie turned to her dad, eyes wide, voice small. "Dad, they can't sleep in a car. It's Christmas." There it was, the thing he'd have to remember later, the line he could never unhear. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. He could feel the old voice in his head, the one that kept him rich. "You don't know her. She could be lying. This is messy. This is dangerous. This is not your problem." But then he looked at the twins again, their tiny fingers, their red faces. Ava's little chest rose and fell too fast. Zoe's lower lip shook nonstop. He knew numbers, he knew risk, and right now the math was simple. If he walked away, these kids might not make it through the night. Maddie tugged on his sleeve again. "Daddy, you always say rich people are supposed to help more 'cause they got more. You literally said that." He did. He'd said it into a microphone at some charity gala. Everyone clapped, #inspirational. Now his own 6-year-old was throwing his words back at him. He blew out a slow breath. "Yeah," he said quietly. "Yeah, I did." He stepped closer to the van door. "Riley," she looked up, eyes guarded. "Yeah," he swallowed. This was not a move he could take back. "Come upstairs with us." Silence. Even the baby paused for a second. Riley blinked. "What? My building's right there," he said, nodding toward the glass tower. "We've got heat, food, extra space just for tonight." She stared at him like he'd started speaking another language. "I can't," she said quickly. I can't just show up in somebody's fancy apartment with my whole mess. Maddie stepped in, all heart, no filter. It's not a mess, it's just you and the babies. We got room, right, Dad? Riley shook her head. I don't want your kids seeing, I'm not trying to. Her voice cracked. She clamped her jaw shut. Ethan kept his tone calm. Look, I'm not asking you to sign anything. I'm not asking you to promise me anything. It's freezing and your girls are shaking. My place is warm. That's pretty much the whole deal. He gave a small, tired half smile. You'd actually be doing me a favor. Maddie's been begging for more people at Christmas. I kinda dropped the ball on invites this year. Maddie nodded hard. For real, it's just me and him and Gloria. That's not a party. That's like a meeting. A little laugh slipped out of Riley before she could stop it. It disappeared fast, but it was there. She looked down at the twins. Ava's cries were more like gasps now. Zoe's eyelids drooped, but her skin was too pale. Fear flashed across Riley's face, the real kind. The kind every parent knows, no matter how much money they have. Are you sure? She whispered. Ethan didn't hesitate this time. I'm sure. He held out his hand, not dramatic, just there, waiting. Riley stared at it. This wasn't how she pictured accepting help from some billionaire in a designer coat on Fifth Avenue, but the babies were so cold and she was so tired. Her fingers slowly slid into his. Her hand was ice. Okay, she said quietly. Just for tonight, he agreed. We'll figure out tomorrow. He nodded toward the guard. We're good, he called. She's with me. The guard looked relieved to be off the hook. All right, Mr. Cole. Your car's out front too if you want it. Of course the guard knew his name. Everyone in this building knew his name. Riley's eyes widened. Wait, Cole, like Coltech Cole? Ethan winced a little. He hated that part. Yeah, he said. But tonight I'm mostly just Maddie's dad, okay? Maddie grinned. Yeah, he's cooler like that. They moved quickly after that. Riley grabbed the duffel and grocery bag. Ethan scooped up the heavier one of the twins with surprising ease. Whoa, hey, it's okay, he murmured, rocking the baby like he'd done this before. He had, once with somebody else, a long time ago. Riley watched the way he held the baby, the careful grip, the steady sway. Her shoulders dropped just a little. Maddie took the other twin not to carry, just to walk beside, making funny faces. Hi, Avor Zoe, I don't know which one you are yet, but I'll figure it out. They crossed the lot together. The security guard opened the gate wider, stepping aside. On the street, Ethan's black SUV idled at the curb, exhaust fogging into the cold air. His driver jumped out, confused at the sight. Mr. Cole, we've got guests, Ethan said simply. Can you grab the bag? The driver nodded, no questions asked. Money couldn't fix everything, but it did make some things move fast. Riley slid into the back seat first, settling in with one twin in her arms. Maddie climbed in right beside her like they'd known each other forever. Ethan got in on the other side with the second baby, shutting the door gently. The city outside the tinted windows was still the same. Honking cabs, streetlights, snow. But inside that car, something had already changed. Riley stared at the ceiling, trying to blink away tears. She whispered mostly to herself, this is insane. Maddie leaned her head against her arm. It's okay, Maddie said softly. Crazy good things can happen too. Ethan looked at them, Riley with her tired eyes and shaking hands, two tiny babies bundled up against her chest. His own daughter sitting there like this was the most normal thing in the world. He felt that old emptiness inside him shift just a little. The driver pulled away from the curb. They weren't going far, just around the block and under the building. But for Riley, for Ava and Zoe, for Maddie, that short ride might as well have been a whole new life. And Ethan had no idea that inviting them upstairs was about to change his more than anyone's. The SUV rolled down into the underground garage like it was swallowing them whole. Concrete, soft echo of tires, dim lights. The world outside disappeared. The driver parked in Ethan's reserved spot. Big white PH painted on the wall. Riley stared at it. Her brain tried to process the jump from drafty van to penthouse level. The door opened. Cold air rushed in again, but softer this time. Ethan stepped out first, baby in his arms, moving like he'd done this 100 times. Maddie hopped out next, already halfway attached to Riley and the twins. Riley climbed out carefully, one arm holding the other baby, the other clutching the strap of her duffel. She felt wrong here, like she'd walked into the wrong movie. Elevators right this way, Ethan said gently. The elevator doors were mirrored. Riley caught a glimpse of herself, hair messy, coat too thin, eyes ringed with exhaustion, a baby on each side of her. She had never looked more like a mom or more like someone who didn't belong in a place like this. Maddie didn't see any of that. She just pressed the button labeled PH like it was a game. I love this part, she whispered to the twins. It goes whoosh. The doors slid shut. The elevator hummed upward. Riley's ears popped a little. Her heart did too. You okay? Ethan asked quietly. She nodded. Yeah, just never been this high up in my life. It's just an apartment, he said. 4 walls and a leaky coffee machine. Don't let the elevator fool you, Maddie snorted. The coffee machine doesn't leak, Dad, you just don't know how to use it. He smirked. Details. The doors opened. Warm air and soft light spilled into the elevator. The penthouse wasn't cold and white like people imagine rich people places. It was warm, dark wood, big windows, a tall Christmas tree in the corner dripping with lights and mismatched ornaments. There were kids' drawings on the fridge. A pair of tiny sneakers kicked off near the door. It looked lived in. Riley stepped out slowly, almost like she was afraid the floor would vanish. Her eyes went wide, not at the size of the place. Not at the view of the city stretched out like 1,000 Christmas lights beyond the glass. At the fireplace, real flames, soft crackling, heat rolling into the room. The twins felt it immediately. Their crying dropped from a full scream to a tired whimper. Their bodies relaxed just a little. Riley swallowed hard, her throat suddenly hurt. Whoa, Maddie said, almost proud. See. Way better than a van. From the hallway, a voice called out, sharp but familiar. Maddie, that you're late, girl, the turkey is. Gloria walked into the room, drying her hands on a towel. Late 50s, hair up in a bun. Face that could either be sweet or terrifying depending on what you did with her clean floors. She stopped dead when she saw Riley and the babies. Oh, her eyes flicked to Ethan. You bringing home strays now, Mr. Cole? Maddie rolled her eyes. Glow, come on, they're people, not puppies. Gloria's gaze dropped to the twins, her whole face softened in one heartbeat. Lord have mercy, she breathed. These babies are ice cold. She marched forward without hesitation. Give me one, you're shaking. Riley stiffened out of instinct. Then slowly, carefully, she let Gloria take Ava. Gloria adjusted the baby on her hip like it was muscle memory. Ethan, turn up the heat a notch. Kitchen's warm, but this room's still fighting with that window. On it, he said, crossing to the wall panel. Maddie dragged Riley farther into the living room. Come sit, she insisted. Right here, it's closest to the fire, it's the best spot, that's where I sit when I'm sad. Riley almost laughed at that. You get sad, she asked softly, letting Maddie guide her to the big couch. Yeah, Maddie said simply, but the couch helps, and grilled cheese and cartoons, you can borrow my system. Riley sat down slowly, still stiff, still clutching Zoe. The baby's crying had faded into tiny little sighs. The couch was soft, her back hit the cushions and her whole body just dropped, like it had been holding her up out of pure stubbornness and finally quit. Gloria tucked a thick throw blanket around Riley's legs without asking permission. Feet up, she said. You're in the warm zone now. Riley's eyes glazed over a little. Thank you, she whispered. It came out too small for how much she meant it. Ethan stood a few feet away, just watching. The flames reflected in the window behind them dancing on the glass. He hadn't planned this. He didn't plan most of the good things that ever happened, if he was honest. I'm gonna make some hot chocolate, he said. Real stuff, none of that powdered nonsense. Maddie perked up. With the tiny marshmallows? Obviously, he said. House rules. He disappeared into the kitchen. You could still see him through the big open doorway, moving around like he actually knew what he was doing. Milk on the stove, cocoa, sugar, cinnamon. Riley watched him for a second, dazed. He cooks, she asked, half to Gloria, half to herself. Gloria snorted. Please, man's allergic to takeout at Christmas, says it messes with the vibe. Maddie leaned against the couch, peeking at Zoe. I'm Maddie, by the way, she said again, quieter this time. I like dogs, dinosaurs, and cinnamon rolls, and I'm 6.5, which is important. Riley smiled faintly. I'm Riley, 26. I like coffee, sleep. And when they don't cry for 5 minutes. Maddie nodded solemnly. Valid, very valid. Zoe's little hand grabbed Maddie's thumb, squeezing tight. Maddie's whole face lit up. Hey, look, she picked me. Riley's heart clenched. Not in a bad way, in a too much way. Ethan came back with 3 steaming mugs on a small tray. Hot chocolate, careful, it's lava. He handed one to Maddie, one to Riley, and kept one for himself. Gloria just raised an eyebrow. You know I'm gonna steal half of Maddie's, right? I'm counting on it, he said. Riley wrapped both hands around the mug, fingers soaking up the heat like they were starved. She took a sip, closed her eyes. It hit her harder than it should have. Not because it was the best hot chocolate on earth, though it was up there, but because it was warm and hers even for just this moment. She swallowed against the lump in her throat. This is really good, she managed. Yeah, my dad's kinda extra about Christmas food, Maddie said proudly. He pretends he's chill, but he's not. Ethan shrugged, taking a sip of his own. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. Gloria rocked Ava gently, walking near the fireplace to get her fully thawed out. She's calming down, she said. Poor little thing was frozen solid. Riley's eyes filled up. She blinked fast, wiping at them with the back of her wrist. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know where else to go. Ethan shook his head. Hey, you don't have to apologize for keeping your kids alive. That hit her so hard she had to look away. A little while later, the house started to settle. The twins finally gave up the fight and fell into that deep, heavy baby sleep. Tiny hands unclenched, mouths slack, bodies limp with trust. Maddie sat on the rug near the coffee table, coloring something and talking quietly, mostly to herself. Gloria went back to the kitchen to check on the turkey and mutter at the oven. The fire crackled, the city hummed softly outside the glass. Riley adjusted Zoe in her arms and sank down lower on the couch. Her head tipped back, her shoulders dropped. She hadn't meant to fall asleep. But her body made the decision for her. 1 minute she was watching Maddie draw, the next her eyes slipped shut. Zoe's tiny breaths warmed the side of her neck. Ava slept in the bassinet Gloria had pulled out of a storage closet, one Maddie had used as a baby. Ethan stood by the window, hands in his pockets, just taking it all in. His living room usually felt big. Tonight it felt full, not of stuff, of life. He glanced at Riley. Her mouth was parted slightly. One hand still loosely gripping the handle of the empty mug, like she hadn't fully let go yet. She looked younger like that, not homeless girl in a van, just a tired mom who finally found a couch that didn't hurt her back. Maddie padded over on socked feet and stood next to him, whispering. She fell asleep. Yeah, he whispered back. Can they stay tonight for real? He looked down at his daughter. Yeah, Bug, he said softly. They're staying tonight. I promise. Maddie nodded, satisfied, and went back to her drawing. Ethan stayed there a little longer, watching the fire, watching Riley and the twins, listening to the small sounds of his home, the clink of dishes from the kitchen, Maddie's low humming, tiny baby breaths. Something inside his chest that had been frozen for a long time started to thaw. He didn't know what tomorrow would look like. He didn't know how long they'd stay. But for the first time in years, on a Christmas Eve he'd only planned to get through, he felt like maybe, just maybe, his house wasn't just big. It was finally starting to feel like a home. Morning slid into the penthouse slow, not with an alarm, not with emails, with light. Soft winter sun pushed through the big windows, turning the dust in the air into tiny floating stars. The fireplace was just embers now. The Christmas tree lights were still on, blinking lazily. On the couch, Riley woke up like somebody had pressed resume on a paused video, neck stiff, back sore, mouth dry. For a second she didn't know where she was. The ceiling was too high, the blanket was too soft, it didn't smell like cold metal and old fast food wrappers. Her hand shot out instinctively. Zoe, there. Her fingers brushed warm baby skin in a soft blanket. She looked down. One twin asleep on her chest, mouth open, breath warm against her shirt. The other in the bassinet by the coffee table, half buried in a fuzzy blanket, cheeks pink instead of gray. Both breathing, both quiet, that alone felt like a miracle. She pushed herself up slowly, careful not to jostle Zoe. Her hair was probably a disaster. Her eyes definitely were. But when she looked around, the only ones who could see were nobody. The room was empty. Distant sounds floated from the hallway and the kitchen, clatter of pans, muffled footsteps, a little burst of laughter that sounded like Maddie. Riley let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. She swung her feet to the floor, hissed a little at the soreness in her back, and checked the babies more carefully. Diapers dry enough for now. Faces warm, bodies relaxed. They looked safe. She couldn't remember the last time she'd seen them like that. On the van's backseat, they always slept tense. Like even in sleep, they knew something wasn't right. Here, with the hum of the heater and the faint smell of coffee in the air, they looked like babies you'd see in a picture frame at a store. It hurt, in a good way and in a terrible one. She found the baby bag tucked next to the couch where she'd left it. Nothing had been touched, no one going through her stuff. She dug out the last clean diapers, the almost empty container of wipes. The little can with just a scoop or two of formula left, her chest tightened. She'd been telling herself she'd figure out the after later, after the cold night, after the van. Well, now it was later, and the can was almost empty. She changed both girls on the couch with the practiced speed of a mom who'd done this way too many times in way too many bathrooms. Done, snapped, wrapped. Someone cleared their throat gently from the hallway. You move like a pro. Riley looked up. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, barefoot t-shirt, joggers, hair messed up like he'd actually slept for once. He held 2 mugs in one hand, coffee. You could smell it from across the room. Sorry, she said quickly. I didn't mean to take over your couch. He shook his head. It's a couch, I promise it's fine. Coffee. She hesitated for half a second, then nodded. Yeah, please. He crossed the room and handed her 1 mug. Her fingers brushed his for half a second, warm. The coffee was strong with a little bit of sugar, no cream. She took a sip, it hit straight down her spine. Oh my God, she muttered. That's amazing. He smiled a tiny bit. Yeah, I don't play around with coffee. Maddie says it's my only personality trait. Riley almost snorted into the mug. Could be worse. He took a sip of his own. For a moment they just sat there, him in the armchair. Her on the couch, babies between them. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't comfortable either. It was something in between. 2 strangers who'd shared a living room overnight and didn't know what that made them. Maddie up? Riley asked quietly. Yeah, Ethan said. She's in the kitchen with Gloria, which means she's probably covered in flour by now. Right on cue, a small voice floated down the hall. Dad, can we do sprinkles or is that illegal? Ethan called back without moving. Sprinkles are not a food group, Maddie. That's not a no, he exhaled, shaking his head. This kid, he muttered. Riley smiled behind her mug. Zoe stirred in her lap, little mouth sucking at the air. A hungry noise. Riley's eyes flickered to the almost empty can of formula. Ethan followed her gaze. He set his coffee down. Hey, he said. I should tell you something before you panic about that, she frowned. About what? He got up, disappeared down the hallway, and came back with a white pharmacy bag, the logo from a 24-hour drugstore on the corner. He set it gently on the coffee table. I snuck out super early, he said, before Maddie woke up, figured you'd need this. She stared at the bag like it might explode, then slowly reached for it. Inside, a big box of diapers. 2 containers of formula, tiny bottles, pacifiers still in the plastic, 2 soft-footed onesies, one with little stars, one with lemons. Riley's throat closed. You bought all this? Yeah, he said. I didn't really know brands, so I texted a friend who's a pediatrician and just grabbed whatever she didn't yell at me about. Riley let out a shaky laugh that turned into something else halfway through. This stuff is expensive, she said quietly. He shrugged. So is my coffee machine, and you saw how that's going. She shook her head. You didn't have to, I know, he said, cutting her off gently. I know I didn't have to, I wanted to. They need it, it's not a big moral puzzle. Her eyes filled fast, no build-up this time. She pressed the back of her wrist to her face. Nobody's ever just done something like this for us, she muttered. At least not without asking for something weird in return. He flinched. He knew exactly what she meant. I'm not that guy, he said quietly. You're safe here. Tiny footsteps slapped down the hallway. Maddie burst into the room, hair a mess, pajamas wrinkled, flour on her cheek. Merry Christmas, she yelled, then froze. Oh, babies are sleeping. Merry Christmas, quietly. She tiptoed the rest of the way in. Did Santa come? She asked, scanning the room. Ethan nodded toward the tree. He left a couple things. There were a few boxes under the tree, nothing insane, a doll, some books, a couple of Lego sets in bright boxes. Maddie gasped like it was a mountain. Whoa. Then she caught sight of the pharmacy bag. What's that? Supplies for the girls, Ethan said. We had a little shopping emergency this morning. Maddie looked at the diapers and formula like they were the coolest presents in the room. They got gifts too, she said, satisfied. Good, be rude not to. She plopped onto the rug, sitting cross-legged near the couch. Can I hold one? Riley hesitated, instinctively protective. Ethan saw the hesitation and jumped in. Maddie, hands clean, totally, she said. Gloria made me wash them for like a whole song. Riley studied her face, the eager eyes, the careful hands. She nodded. Okay, sit all the way back against the couch. And if you feel like you're gonna drop her, you tell me, not your pride. Deal. Maddie grinned. Deal. They shifted Zoe into her lap. Maddie's arms went rigid at first, then relaxed as she realized Zoe wasn't made of glass. Hi, Maddie whispered. I'm officially your big sister now, on trial, 30-day free test. Riley snorted. Where do you get this stuff? TV, Maddie said. And Gloria. From the kitchen, Gloria yelled, don't drag me into this, girl. Everyone laughed. The tension in the room dropped one more notch. Breakfast smelled like a diner in the best way. Pancakes, bacon, maple syrup, coffee. Gloria set the table. Ethan poured juice. Riley carried Ava in her arms and carefully lowered herself into a chair. It felt dangerous, sitting at a table like this, like she might want it too much. Maddie climbed into her seat and immediately got syrup on her sleeve. So what do twins eat? She asked. Pancakes too? Not yet, Riley said. Just formula for a while, then we'll see if they're as obsessed with carbs as you are. I hope so, Maddie said. It's important to dream big. They all bowed their heads when Gloria did. She said a short, simple grace over the food, not pushing it on anyone, just speaking it. Riley didn't close her eyes. She watched Ava's face instead. She didn't remember the last time someone prayed over a meal she was at. They ate. Maddie devoured 3 pancakes like she was in a competition. Ethan ate slower, sipping coffee, watching everyone like he was making sure this stayed real. Riley ate like she didn't quite trust the food to stay on the table. Small bites, long pauses, but it was hot, and good, and hers, for this morning at least. They talked about nothing at first. Maddie's Christmas list, snow. The weird neighbor upstairs who played trumpet at midnight. Then, like a car easing onto a highway, Ethan shifted the conversation. Riley, he said gently, I want to ask you something. But if you don't want to answer, it's okay. She stiffened, fork halfway to her mouth. Okay, how'd you end up in the van? The question hung in the air like fog. Maddie stopped chewing. Even Gloria, who had retreated to the kitchen, went quiet. Riley put her fork down, her fingers twisted in the edge of the napkin. She took a breath. I had a job, she started. Her voice wasn't dramatic, just flat, tired truth. 2, actually. I worked full-time at a diner and I cleaned apartments twice a week. Images flashed in her mind, greasy floors, coffee pots, late-night customers, vacuum lines in strangers' living rooms. It wasn't amazing, but it was enough. I had this little studio in Queens. One room, no real view, but it was mine. Paid the rent, kept the lights on. Maddie listened with wide eyes like this was the most interesting story she'd ever heard. Ethan just watched her face. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought, okay, this'll be hard, but we'll make it work. I'll hustle, baby's nap, I'll figure it out. Her jaw clenched. Their dad didn't exactly get on board. She took another breath. He said he wasn't ready to be a father, that I should be smart and not have them. Maddie frowned. That's dumb, she said bluntly. Riley smiled sadly. Yeah, kid. It was, she kept going. I said no, I wasn't, I couldn't do that, so he left, blocked my number, changed jobs, vanished. I told myself I didn't need him, that it was better this way. Her fingers ran over the curve of Ava's tiny back. When the twins were born, it was beautiful and terrifying, two little people who needed everything from me. She gave a small, humorless laugh. I tried to go back to the diner. The owner was nice at first. Let me bring the girls in their stroller. I'd keep them in the back by the kitchen. They'd sleep while I worked. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Ethan's stomach twisted. He knew that diner. He'd grabbed coffee there after late meetings more than once. Then he sold the place, Riley said. New manager comes in, new rules. He says I can't bring them anymore. Says it's unprofessional. Liability. All that, her voice got tight at the edges. I tried to find daycare, a babysitter, anything, but the cost was more than my rent, and nobody wants to watch two babies for cheap. I missed a couple shifts trying to figure it out. She swallowed. He fired me, she said. Said I had to choose if I wanted to be a mom or an employee, like that's a thing you pick. Silence. Even the clock on the wall felt loud. Maddie whispered, that's messed up. Ethan's jaw clenched. He'd used words like efficiency and cuts in boardrooms. He'd never attached it to a face like this. I kept cleaning apartments a little, Riley continued. But without the diner money, the math didn't work. Rent went up, bills piled up. I sold what I could. Then the landlord gave me a date and said if I wasn't out, my stuff would be on the sidewalk. She blinked, eyes shiny now. So I grabbed what mattered, the babies, a couple bags, some formula. A friend I hadn't talked to in years let me crash on her couch for a bit, but she has 2 kids, a small place, and a boyfriend who didn't like the noise. She shrugged like she was talking about the weather. Ran out of couches, ended up in the van. I told myself it was temporary, I'd figure it out. I always figured it out before. Her voice dropped, but it got colder, and the girls got sick once. And last night, she looked up straight at Ethan. Last night I was sitting in that van thinking, I can't keep them warm, and that broke me. Her eyes filled fully now. She let them. I've done broke before. I've done tired, hungry, whatever, but not being able to keep my girls warm. She shook her head. That's different. That hit somewhere deep. I was so close to going to the ER and saying, here, you take them because I don't know if I can do this. The table went dead quiet. Maddie looked like she might cry. Gloria sniffed from the kitchen. Ethan swallowed hard. But you didn't, he said softly. Riley shook her head. Then your kid showed up, she said, all pink hat and big eyes. Asking if we were okay, she gave a tiny smile. I didn't want to say yes to coming up here, I really didn't. My pride was screaming louder than the baby's, but I looked at Ava's lips. They were turning purple, her voice broke on that word. So I shut up and said okay, just for the night. No one talked for a long moment. The only sound was Maddie's fork scraping her plate, but she wasn't eating. Just pushing syrup around, Ethan leaned forward, elbows on the table, hands clasped. You know, he said quietly, from where I'm sitting, that doesn't sound like failure. Riley let out a humorless scoff. Sure feels like it. You didn't abandon them, he said. You didn't leave them in a hospital or with strangers. You slept in a van. You froze with them instead of letting them freeze alone. He held her gaze. That's not failing, Riley. That's what a good mom does when the world gives her garbage options. Her eyes overflowed then. She didn't even try to hold it back. The tears slid down quietly, landing on the edge of her plate. Maddie slid out of her chair and walked around the table. She wrapped her little arms around Riley's side in a clumsy hug. You're a really good mom, Maddie said into her arm. Like a really, really good one, Riley choked out a laugh sob. She hugged Maddie back with one arm, holding Ava with the other. Thanks, kid, she whispered. When the tears slowed, when plates were mostly empty, Ethan cleared his throat. Listen, he said, you don't have to answer right now, but I don't want you going back to that van tonight. Riley stiffened. Ethan, just hear me out, he said calmly. I'm not saying move in forever or anything wild. I know you've had enough of men who say one thing and mean another, so here's what I mean exactly. He held up his fingers, counting. 1, you and the girls can stay here through the week. No strings, no weirdness. Just until this cold front passes and you can think straight without shivering. She opened her mouth. He held up another finger. 2, while you're here we figure out options, real ones. Not just hope it works out. There's a women's housing program my company partnered with last year. I can make calls, I can pull some strings. Riley stared at him. She didn't trust this. She didn't trust how much she wanted to trust it. And 3, he said, softer now, you don't have to do this alone anymore, not if you don't want to. That last part hung in the air. Riley shook her head slowly. I can't just live in your house, Ethan. I barely know you, you barely know me. People are gonna think, people already think stuff, he cut in gently. Trust me, I'm on Google, that's not new. And I'm not asking you to sign your life away. I'm asking you not to walk back into a freezing van with 2 4-month-olds because your pride won't fit in my elevator. Her lips twitched, fighting a smile. That's rude, she muttered. A little, he said, but it's true. Maddie looked back and forth between them. Please stay, she said simply. I like waking up in there here, feels less lonely. Riley's heart did that painful squeeze again, less lonely. She knew that feeling too well. Gloria stepped out of the kitchen, drying her hands. He's right, you know, she said. House feels different with you 3 here, in a good way. Besides, I already pulled out the baby stuff from storage. Be ashamed to waste my effort, it was said lightly, but the look in her eyes wasn't, it was steady. Kind. Riley looked at all of them, Ethan, Maddie, Gloria, her 2 girls, the warmth, the food, the quiet, and the van. In her mind, she saw the cracked dashboard, the frost on the windshield, her breath fogging in the dark, her arms tightened around Ava. She exhaled, long and shaky. Okay, she whispered, I'll stay. For the week, Maddie cheered quietly, fists in the air. Yes, squad upgrade. Ethan let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. For the week, he agreed. We'll figure out the rest, one day at a time. Riley nodded. She still looked scared, but for the first time, under all that fear, there was a tiny flicker of something else. Hope. She didn't trust it yet, but she let it sit there, just for now. Because maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the part of her story where everything ended. Maybe this was the part where something new began. The first day after Christmas didn't explode into drama, it just unfolded, quiet, slow. Like the house was testing out its new shape. Ethan was up first, he always was. The city outside the glass was a little hazy, half snow, half exhaust. He moved through the kitchen on autopilot, coffee, pan eggs. Except now there were tiny socks draped over the back of a chair, a baby bottle air-drying by the sink, a folded blanket on the couch that wasn't from his linen closet, it was Riley's. The place felt less like a museum, more like a life. He cracked a couple of eggs into a bowl. Behind him, a soft noise, not a baby, a yawn. He glanced back. Riley shuffled in, one of Maddie's oversized hoodies thrown over her own t-shirt, hair twisted up in a messy knot. She looked like she'd been through a war and lost, but somehow still standing. Morning, she mumbled. Hey, he said, sleep okay? She lifted a shoulder. I slept, that's already a win. He nodded toward the couch. They're still out. I checked on them. For the first time in forever, there hadn't been a middle-of-the-night panic. No frantic search for blankets, no flinching at every car passing the van. Just sleep. Riley wrapped her hands around a mug as he handed her coffee, no questions asked. You don't have to cook, she said, watching him move around the stove. Too late, he said. We're already in it. Maddie stumbled, and a minute later, hair tilted to one side, dragging her blanket like a tiny, exhausted ghost. Is it school? She asked, voice raspy. Not today, kiddo, you're still on break, Ethan said. Her eyes lit up. So it's snack o'clock forever. Nice try, he said. She climbed onto one of the stools and laid her cheek flat on the cool countertop. Then she noticed Riley and the hoodie. Hey, that's my favorite hoodie, she said, but there was no heat in it. Riley's eyes went wide. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I grabbed it 'cause it was on the chair, Maddie shrugged. Nah, it looks better on you, you can borrow it. I'm just saying we're officially sharing clothes now. Riley laughed softly. Is that how that works? Yeah, you're in, Maddie said. Sorry, those are the rules. By mid-morning, the house had a pattern. Not a schedule, but a rhythm. Ethan took calls in his office, the door half open. Laptop propped up, headset on. Every few minutes, though, he'd lean back in his chair and listen. From the living room, he could hear Riley singing something soft and off-key, baby coos, Maddie's high voice asking 100 questions in a row. Why does Ava cry more than Zoe? Who was born first? Do they know they're twins? At some point, his CFO, Marcus, popped up on screen. You look different, man, Marcus said. You sleep at all? Ethan smirked. Define sleep. A faint baby cry drifted down the hall. Marcus paused. Was that a baby? Ethan sighed. Yeah. Long story, you hiding a secret family up there, Marcus joked. Ethan's eyes flickered toward the door. Something like that, he muttered. Marcus didn't push. Not yet. In the living room, Riley found ways to keep herself busy. She couldn't just sit there and let people take care of her. Her body rebelled at the idea, so she moved. While the twins napped, she folded tiny onesies in neat stacks on the coffee table. She collected Maddie's crayons and put them back in the box with the same care she'd use for glass. She wiped down the counters when Gloria stepped away. At first, Gloria protested. Hey, this is my battlefield, the older woman said, catching Riley with a sponge in hand. Riley froze. Sorry, I just needed to do something. Sitting still makes me itchy. Gloria studied her for a second, then shook her head not unkindly. Fine, you want a job, you dust, I cook, we don't step on each other's toes. Deal. Riley smiled, a real one this time. Deal. It wasn't about cleaning, it was about contributing. About not feeling like she was just taking up oxygen. Maddie was everywhere. She ran to grab diapers before Riley even asked. She fetched the pacifier off the floor with a proud, "Don't worry, I did the 5-second rule, it's technically fine." She sat next to the twins on the rug, talking to them like they were old friends. "Okay, so here's the deal," she said one afternoon, laying on her stomach, chin on her hands. "When you get bigger, we're gonna build a fort, but not a weak one, a serious fort. Pillows, chairs, snacks, the whole thing." Ava kicked her legs like she was signing off on the idea. Zoe stared at Maddie with that intense baby focus that feels like they're staring into your soul. Riley watched from the couch, one hand on a mug of tea, the other resting lightly on her own knee. Her shoulders were still tight, but every now and then they dropped a little lower. The evenings became everyone's favorite time. Ethan would log out of his last call, shut the laptop, stay in the doorway for a second, just staring at the scene in front of him. It didn't look like his life, it looked like something out of a different man's life. One who knew how to do this. Riley on the couch, a baby in each arm, Maddie tucked against her side, a book open in Riley's hands. "Okay," Riley said one night, "we can do the bunny story again, but only if somebody else does the bunny voice because mine is tragic." Maddie gasped. "I'll do it," she said. "I've been practicing." Riley raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah, let's hear your bunny audition." Maddie cleared her throat, serious as a heart attack. "Hi, my name is Benny the Bunny, and I like snacks and naps and emotionally unavailable carrots." Riley cracked up. "You are not okay," she giggled, "but I love that for you." Ethan leaned in the doorway, smiling without realizing it. He didn't join them right away. He didn't want to break the bubble. He just listened. To Maddie's dramatic bunny voice, to Riley's soft corrections when she got a word wrong, to the twins' little baby noises underneath it all. It sounded like something he didn't know he'd been missing. Home. Of course, it wasn't all cute and perfect. One afternoon, both twins melted down at the same time. Ava had gas. Zoe was overtired. They screamed like the world was ending. Riley paced the living room, one baby in a carrier on her chest, the other on her shoulder. Her eyes were red, her voice hoarse. It's okay, I got you," she repeated, more to herself than them. Ethan walked in mid-conference call, headset still around his neck. He took one look and hung the call up without a goodbye. "Here, give me one," he said. Riley shook her head. "No, you're working, I can." "Riley," he said gently, already reaching. "I know how to hold a screaming baby. I've had practice." She wavered, then gave in. He scooped up Ava, bouncing gently, walking small laps across the room. Hey, kiddo, I get it," he murmured. "Life is hard, you got feelings, same." Within a few minutes, both cries had gone down a notch. Riley's shoulders dropped, her breath slowed. "Thanks," she said quietly. "We're a two-person job right now," he answered. "3 if you count Maddie, 4 if we ever let Gloria in on the chaos." From the kitchen, Gloria yelled, "I heard that." Riley laughed, just a little, but Ethan caught it and tucked it away in his head. Nights ended the same way over and over until it no longer felt like just for a week. Dinner, dishes clinking in the sink, TV low in the background, Maddie fighting sleep like it was her sworn enemy. Riley would read to all 3 girls on the couch. Some nights it was a kid's story. Some nights it was a chapter book, too big for Maddie, too many words, but she loved the sound of Riley's voice anyway. Ethan would sit in the armchair nearby, pretending to scroll his phone. He wasn't reading anything. He was memorizing. The way Maddie slowly slid sideways until her head rested on Riley's shoulder. The way Riley never seemed to mind the weight. The way Ava and Zoe's hands always found each other, even in sleep. He watched the way this woman, who'd spent nights in a freezing van, looked more at peace holding 3 kids on his couch than she ever had holding nothing in some quiet, safe room. And he realized something quietly, without fanfare, without saying it out loud. This didn't feel temporary anymore. Not to him. He didn't know what that meant yet, didn't know where it was going. But every morning he woke up and they were still there. Every night he went to bed and the house was full of soft baby noises and one kid's dramatic snoring. It felt less like a favor and more like fate. Afternoons in the penthouse started to feel predictable. In a good way. The city hummed outside, trucks, horns, voices, but up here it was quieter. Ava and Zoe usually crashed around too, team nap. They'd knock out on the couch, faces turned toward each other like magnets. Riley would use that window to clean up, fold clothes, catch her breath. This day was like that, mostly. The twins were sleeping side by side on a thick blanket on the floor, 2 tiny chests rising and falling in sync. Sunlight slid across the living room, landing in warm squares on the wood. Dust floated in the beam. Riley sat on the rug with a basket of clean baby clothes, little socks, tiny shirts, onesies so small they barely made sense. She folded each piece in half, then half again, stacked them in neat piles. It was boring, it was repetitive. It was also the calmest thing she'd done in months. She was halfway through a pair of lemon print leggings when she heard soft footsteps in the hallway. Bare feet, small ones. Maddie appeared in the doorway. She wasn't bouncing in like she usually did. No big noise, no hey guys, she just stood there, blue dress with little flowers, hair pulled into a loose ponytail, her teddy bear tucked under one arm, her face was serious, too serious for six. Riley glanced up and smiled. Hey you, she said softly, come here, wanna help me fold? Maddie crossed the room slowly, like she was walking through water. She sat down on the floor next to Riley, but she didn't touch the clothes. She hugged her teddy closer instead. The silence stretched out a little too long. Riley's radar went off. This wasn't the usual I'm bored quiet, this was something else. She set the leggings down and turned to face Maddie more fully. You okay? She asked, voice low. Maddie shrugged, that shrug kids do when the answer is no, but they don't know how to say it. Her eyes were shiny. Yeah, she muttered, I'm fine. She didn't look fine. Riley waited. That was one thing motherhood had taught her. If you jump in too fast, kids shut down. If you give them space, sometimes the truth bubbles up on its own. Maddie traced a finger along the teddy bear's ribbon, round and round. Finally, she whispered, can I ask you something? Riley's chest squeezed. Anything, she said. You can always ask me anything. Maddie took a breath, the kind that looks big on a little body. Do you like being a mom? The question landed harder than Riley expected. She blinked. Yeah, she said slowly. I do. It's hard, like really hard, but I love it. Even when you're tired, even when I'm tired. Maddie nodded, like she was checking boxes in her head. Her voice came out small again. Do you think you can be a mom to more than one kid at the same time? Riley's brows pulled in. Sure, she said gently. Plenty of moms have more than one kid. Some have 3, 4, 10. Maddie's fingers gripped the teddy bear tighter. But do you love them all the same? Riley's heart gave a slow, painful thud. She shifted closer, keeping her tone steady. Loving more than one kid isn't like splitting a pizza, she said. It's not less for everyone, your heart just makes more room. Maddie swallowed, her eyes shined brighter now. Oh, Riley leaned in a little. Hey, she said softly. What's really going on? Talk to me, bug. Maddie's lip trembled. I miss having a mom. The words came out rushed, like they'd been fighting to escape for a long time. Riley's hand moved before her brain did. She reached up and gently brushed Maddie's hair back from her face. Oh, honey, she whispered. Maddie blinked fast, tears finally spilling over. I mean, I had one, she said. Dad says she was really nice and funny, and she loved me a lot. She just got sick and then she was gone. Riley nodded slowly. She'd heard the basics. She hadn't heard it from Maddie's mouth. That was different. Your dad's right, Riley said. I bet she loved you like crazy. He tries so hard, Maddie rushed on. Like for real, he does all the things. He makes lunches. He does my hair on picture day and it's kinda bad, but he tries. Riley smiled a little. I've seen the hair, it's a brave attempt. Maddie laughed through a tear, then sniffled. He reads me stories. He comes to everything at school. He's like 10 people, but her voice cracked. But he's not a mom. Riley's eyes burned. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Maddie kept going. At school, everybody talks about their moms, she said. Like, my mom said this, my mom did that. They all stand together at pickup. They plan stuff. They talk about snacks and PTA and whatever. She hugged the teddy bear so tight its stuffing squished. On Mother's Day, we make crafts, she whispered. The teacher always says you can make yours for any special person in your life, but it's not the same. I always feel weird. I don't want Dad to feel bad. I love him. But the words came out in a rush now, tripping over each other. Sometimes I just want someone to read to me the way you do. Or hug me the way you hug the babies, or just be here in that mom way. Riley could feel her own heart breaking, slowly, cleanly. She scooted closer until their knees touched. It's okay to want that, she said, voice barely above a whisper. It doesn't mean you love your dad any less, it just means you're human. Maddie looked up at her, eyes red and wet. I don't want him to think he's not enough, she said. He's my favorite person, but when I see you with Ava and Zoe, my chest feels weird, like something's missing inside me, and I don't know what to do with it. Riley took a slow breath. She knew that feeling. She'd walked around with her own missing pieces for years. You know what that weird feeling is? She asked. Maddie sniffled. What? It's a mom-shaped space, Riley said gently. You didn't do anything wrong. Nobody did. It's just there. And it wants to be filled. Maddie's eyes flickered between Riley's face and the sleeping twins. Her next words came out shaky. Do you think, is it allowed? She trailed off. Riley waited. Is it allowed to have 2 moms? Maddie whispered. Like one in heaven and one down here. Riley's breath caught. She swallowed. Yeah, she said. I think it is. Love doesn't get jealous like that. Your mom up there's probably just glad someone else is here to help. Maddie's chin trembled. Riley, yeah, baby. Another big breath. Here it came. Could you be my mom too? The room went absolutely still. Riley stared at her. The world outside kept moving, cars, horns, elevators, life, but inside that living room, time just stopped. She felt like someone had reached inside her chest and squeezed. All the air left her lungs at once. Her first instinct was to shut it down, to say, slow down. We barely know each other. It's not that simple. But then she looked at Maddie, at this kid who'd lost a mom before she even got a chance to know her. who'd been doing life with a dad doing the job of two people, who'd finally found someone who read stories and wiped tears and remembered to cut toast into little squares. And she saw herself sitting in a freezing van, begging the universe for one break. Maybe this was Maddie's break. Riley's eyes filled. She didn't bother hiding it. She set the shirt she was holding down on the floor and turned her whole body toward Maddie. Her voice shook. "Come here," she said softly. Maddie crawled into her lap like she'd done it a million times, teddy bear squished between them. Riley wrapped her arms around her, holding her as tight as she held the twins. She let herself feel it, the weight, the trust. She pressed her cheek to Maddie's hair. "Listen," she whispered. "I love being a mom. I love Ava and Zoe more than anything, and I didn't think I had room for more. I thought my heart was maxed out." Maddie clutched fistfuls of her hoodie. "But you know what I figured out," Riley continued. "Hearts are weird. They don't fill up and stop. They stretch. Every time you love someone, they just stretch more." She pulled back a little so she could look Maddie in the eyes. She held her face gently in both hands. "If you're asking me if I want to love you like a mom does," she said, voice thick, "then yeah. Yeah, I do, as long as you're okay with me not always getting it right." Maddie's eyes went huge. "So, is that a yes?" Riley laughed through a tear. "That's a yes," she said. "I'll take care of you the way I take care of my girls. I'll read to you, hug you, show up for the stuff that matters. For as long as I'm here, you'll have a mom down here too. Deal?" Maddie launched herself fully into Riley's chest, nearly knocking them both over. "Deal," she whispered into Riley's shirt. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Riley hugged her back, one hand on the back of her head, the other around her shoulders. She rocked them both slightly, a motion she'd used 1,000 times with crying babies. "You don't have to thank me," Riley murmured. "You're easy to love, kid. It's not hard." Maddie sniffled. "Can I still love my first mom too?" Riley's throat closed. "Absolutely," she said. "You don't have to pick. Your heart's big enough for both of us." Maddie pulled back just enough to look up at her again. "Okay," she whispered. "Then you're my mom too now." Riley smiled through tears. "Yeah," she said. "I guess I am." They stayed like that for a while. Riley hugging Maddie, Maddie hanging on like she was afraid if she let go, the whole world would change back. The twins slept on, oblivious, tiny, peaceful. The sun shifted across the floor. And in the hallway, just out of sight, Ethan stood perfectly still. He had come home early. Quietly, keycard, soft beep, front door opening on a whisper. He'd heard their voices before he saw them. He paused at the corner, meaning to walk in. Then he heard it. "Could you be my mom too?" The words hit him like a truck. His hand went to the wall to steady himself. He listened. Every fiber of him wanted to rush in, to protect Maddie, to shield her, to manage the moment. But another part of him, the part that had learned a few things the hard way, knew he had to let this play out. So he stayed in the hallway. Silent, he heard Riley's voice crack. He heard Maddie's shaky, "Is that a yes?" When Riley said, "That's a yes," something in his chest cracked wide open. Joy, grief, relief, fear, all tangled up. His eyes burned. He didn't even bother wiping them right away. This was the thing he'd worried about every single night. Maddie growing up feeling like something was missing, like she wasn't enough, like he wasn't enough. And here was Riley, this woman who had nothing, who was sleeping on his couch, who'd walked into his life by accident, giving his daughter the one thing he couldn't give her. A mom's arms. He pressed his head back against the wall. Closed his eyes, let the tears run down into his hairline. He wasn't sad, not exactly. It was something bigger, grateful, terrified, humbled. He knew one thing for sure in that moment. Riley wasn't just the woman with the twins anymore. She wasn't a charity case, she wasn't temporary. She was stitched into his kid's heart now, into his. Whether he was ready to say it out loud or not, they weren't just sharing space. They were becoming a family. In the living room, Maddie finally relaxed in Riley's arms. Her breathing evened out, her grip loosened. She pulled back one more time just to check. "You're not gonna disappear, right?" she whispered. That question cut straight through Riley. She thought of the boyfriend who'd vanished when she was pregnant, the couches that dried up, the people who'd said, "I got you," and then didn't. She could make exactly one promise. "I can't promise the whole world won't go crazy again," Riley said honestly. "But I can promise this, I'm not gonna walk away on purpose, not from you, not from them." Maddie nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "That's enough." She settled back against Riley's chest. Riley held her, cheek resting on her hair. For the first time in a long, long time, Maddie's mom-shaped space didn't feel all the way empty. It wasn't fully healed, it never would be. But it wasn't just a hole anymore. It was a place with a name, with arms. And out in the hallway, Ethan took a deep, shaky breath, wiped his face, and quietly decided, whatever this was turning into, he wasn't going to run from it. Not this time. The holidays ended the way they always do. Slowly, lights came down outside, tourists thinned out. Fifth Avenue went back to being loud instead of magical. Inside the penthouse, though, the magic kind of stayed. One chilly Monday morning, Maddie sat at the kitchen table, legs swinging, chewing on the end of a pencil. Her backpack was open, papers everywhere. Riley stood at the counter, measuring formula into 2 bottles. She'd gotten fast at it. Almost automatic, you got everything, Riley asked. Homework, lunch, emotional support, snacks, Maddie huffed. Yeah, but my homework is weird, Riley glanced over. What's the assignment? We're doing Family Week, Maddie said in a dramatic announcer voice. We have to draw a picture of our family and talk about it in front of the class. She made a face like the word talk tasted bad. Riley's chest did a small, worried flutter. Okay, and what feels weird about it? Maddie chewed her pencil again, then shrugged. I used to just draw me and Dad, she said. That was easy. But now, she gestured around the room with the pencil. Now there's more of us. Riley's throat got tight. Is that bad? She asked softly. Maddie shook her head fast. No, it's good. It's just different. I don't know how to explain it so people don't get all weird about it, you know. Riley smiled a little. Yeah, she said, I get that. Ava squawked from the bouncer. Zoe kicked her legs, making the little toy bar shake. Riley popped both bottles into a mug of warm water and walked over to the table. Wanna practice? She said. Tell it to me first, Maddie thought. Her foot swung faster. Okay, she said finally. My name is Maddie Cole. My family is my dad, Ethan. My mom in heaven, my mom down here. She glanced up at Riley, checking. Riley's eyes went shiny, but her smile was steady. I'm cool with that, she said. Keep going. My baby sisters, Ava and Zoe, and Gloria 'cause she kinda counts. Also a teddy bear named Mr. Waffles, but he's optional. Riley laughed. Honestly, that sounds perfect. You think it'll make sense? Maddie asked. Yeah, kid, Riley said. Families aren't math problems. They don't have to look one way. You just tell them the truth. The right people will get it. Maddie nodded slowly. Okay, she said. Then I'm drawing everybody. She bent over her paper, tongue sticking out slightly in concentration. Riley watched her draw a tall guy with messy hair, a woman with a bun holding two smaller blobs with circles for hands, and a smaller girl in the middle, smiling bigger than anyone. She labeled them all. Dad, Mom, Riley, Maddie, Ava, Zoe. Riley had to turn away for a second just to breathe. That afternoon, Ethan picked Maddie up from school. It was cold, parents in puffy jackets. Kids in backpacks that looked too big for their bodies. Maddie came tearing out of the building like the bell was a starting pistol. Dad, Dad, she launched herself into his side. He caught her easily, laughing. Hey, slow down, NASCAR. How'd it go? I nailed it, she said, absolutely certain. I told them about everybody, even Mr. Waffles. Strong choice, he said. They walked hand in hand toward the car. Did anybody say anything mean? He asked casually. He tried to keep his voice light, his grip tightened just a bit. Maddie shook her head. Nope. Miss Alvarez said she liked my drawing. She put it up on the board, and my friend Mia said I have, like, the coolest family. Ethan felt something in his chest unclench. Yeah, he said. Yeah, Maddie said proudly. She said you got all the types. That's like deluxe edition. He laughed. Deluxe edition, huh? I told her we're like one of those big combo meals. You get everything. He ruffled her hair. You're weird, he said. I like it. 2 days later, the outside world knocked on their door. Not literally, digitally. Ethan was in his office late that night, blue light from his monitor painting his face. He was plowing through emails when his phone buzzed. Marcus. He almost ignored it. Then another buzz, then a third. He sighed and picked up. What's up? Marcus didn't waste time. You seen the blog? What blog? Dude, go to your email. I sent you a link right now. There was an edge in Marcus's voice that Ethan didn't like. He opened the email. Subject line, this is about to be a thing. He clicked the link. A local neighborhood site popped up, nothing huge. Just a small, feel-good blog that posted about school events, charity drives, holiday parades. Front and center, a photo from Maddie's classroom. The kids stood in a row, each holding their My Family drawing. There, right in the middle, was Maddie, grinning, missing tooth and all. Her drawing was visible. A tall man, a woman, 3 little figures. Underneath the photo, the caption read, Local students share what family means to them. One student, daughter of billionaire tech founder Ethan Cole, says her family is my dad, my mom in heaven, my mom down here, and my 2 baby sisters. Looks like Mr. Cole has more to celebrate than just business this year. Ethan's stomach dropped. Oh hell, he muttered. Marcus's voice came through the phone. Yeah, oh hell is right. This thing's already getting shared. You know how people are with your name. There were already comments. Wait, when did Ethan Cole get remarried? Gold digger alert. Is this the woman from that coffee shop near his office? He moves fast, damn. Ethan felt heat rise in his face, not because of the guesses. Because Riley was going to see this, and he knew exactly what it would do to her. He found her in the living room. The twins were down for the night, finally. Maddie had passed out halfway through a movie, sprawled on the couch, hair everywhere. Riley sat on the floor, back against the couch, scrolling her phone, the room lit mostly by the soft glow of the TV. Her face looked strange, too still. Ethan stopped. You saw it, he said. She held up the phone. On the screen was the same photo. Maddie, the drawing, the caption, and underneath it, blown up, the sentence that made Riley feel like the floor had shifted. Looks like billionaire Ethan Cole has a new family. Her voice was quiet, not cold. Just scared. What is this, Ethan? He ran a hand through his hair. It's a local blog, he said. From Maddie's school, someone thought it was cute. Riley swallowed. They put my kids in your new family headline, she said. They put me in there without even knowing my name. She laughed once, short, bitter. Of course they did. He moved closer. Hey, people talk, that's what they do. It does. She cut in, her voice shook. You might be used to this. I am not. I've had people look at me like I'm nothing before. I can handle that. But now they're gonna look at me like I'm using you, like I did this on purpose, like I planned it. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Do you know what gold digger does to someone who's been broke their whole life? She asked. It makes every good thing feel dirty, like you don't even get to enjoy not suffering without people adding a price tag to it. Ethan's chest clenched. Riley, that's not what this is, I know that, Maddie knows that. The internet doesn't care, she said flatly. People don't care, they're gonna make up a whole story about me, about you, about my girls. Her eyes flashed. What happens when this jumps to a bigger site? What happens when some tabloid runs, billionaire takes in homeless mom? You think CPS is just gonna shrug at that? He opened his mouth, closed it. He hadn't thought about that. Not like that, she sank back against the couch, staring at nothing. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't have them grow up with people thinking I trapped some rich guy. I can't have my daughter's faces used for clicks. He stepped toward her. What are you saying? She looked up at him. Her eyes were wet, but the decision in them was clear. I'm saying I should go, she said, before this gets worse. Before I wreck your life, before I wreck theirs. The words landed like a punch. Ethan felt winded. Riley, look, you've done more for us than anyone, she said quickly. I'll never forget that, but this was supposed to be temporary. A week, a break, not, she gestured vaguely around. Not this. Her voice broke on the last word. I can't be the girl in the headline standing next to a billionaire with 2 babies on her hip. I've seen what people do with that story. I lived with those dudes, I cleaned their houses, I heard the way they talked. She shook her head. My kids are not a plot twist for your public image. Ethan's jaw tightened. They're not, he said. He stopped himself just in time. He'd almost said it, my family. He sat down on the couch close, but not too close. Maddie snored softly above them, completely out. He lowered his voice. Okay, he said. Let's say we go with your plan, you leave. You go where exactly? She flinched. I'll find something, a shelter, another couch, a cheap room somewhere. I'll figure it out, I always do. In this weather, he asked, with 2 4-month-olds, with what money, Riley? She pressed her lips together. He wasn't saying it to be cruel, he was saying it because it was the truth. You're scared, he said quietly. I get that, I do, but leaving doesn't make the blog vanish, it doesn't untake the photo. All it does is take you out of the one place where you and your girls are safe and wanted. Her eyes flashed at that word. Wanted, she echoed. You don't know that. He looked right at her. Yeah, he said. I do, Riley laughed, a sharp, broken sound. You feel guilty, she said. That's what this is. You feel bad about your money, your company, all the people who got laid off so you could have this place, and now you found a sad story to fix. He recoiled a little. It stung because there was a grain of truth in it. He did feel guilty, but that wasn't all this was. You really think this is about guilt? He asked quietly. What else would it be? He exhaled, ran both hands over his face. He hadn't planned to do this now, but the world had a way of forcing his hand. Riley, he said, dropping his hands, this isn't about optics or debt or me trying to polish my halo. I don't care what some blog thinks. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You and your girls came into my life on the worst possible night, and somehow the house has felt right ever since. He gestured around. Maddie laughs more, she sleeps better. She doesn't wander into my room at 3 a.m. just to check I'm still there. That's you, that's them. Her eyes softened for a second, then hardened again. That doesn't mean I get to blow up your life, she whispered. Maybe my life needed to be blown up, he shot back, a little sharper than he meant. Maybe the version where I just sit up here in my glass box, throwing money at problems and pretending I'm fine, wasn't actually working. He lowered his voice again. You didn't wreck anything, Riley, you made it real. The words hung there. She blinked, tears finally spilling over. I don't know how to trust that, she admitted. Every time I leaned on someone, the ground gave out. I cannot do that with my girls, I can't. Then don't trust me yet, he said. Trust what you see, Maddie's face. Your daughter's sleeping without shaking, this house feeling different. Start there, she looked at Maddie, mouth slightly open, drooling on the couch cushion. She looked at the baby monitor on the coffee table, tiny green light steady. She looked at her own hands, cracked from winter, resting on this soft, ridiculous rug she never could have bought in a million years. In her chest, the old instinct screamed, run before it hurts. But underneath it, way down low, another voice had started to whisper. What if this time is different? She didn't answer him. Not yet. She just set her phone face down on the floor, wiped her cheeks with the heels of her hands, and breathed. Long, slow, shaky. The blog post was out there. The comments were out there. She couldn't control that. The only thing she could choose right now was whether she stayed seated on that floor, in that living room, in this family that had slowly wrapped itself around her, or whether she walked back into the cold. And for the first time since she'd seen that headline, she didn't know which choice scared her more. That night, the blog wasn't the loudest thing in the room. The fear was, it clung to Riley like smoke, followed her from the living room to the kitchen. From the kitchen to the hallway, the penthouse felt too big, too bright, too impossible. Maddie was finally in bed, knocked out after a long, stubborn battle with bedtime. The twins were asleep in the makeshift nursery, a guest room Ethan and Riley had turned into baby central. Nightlight on, white noise humming, two tiny chests rising and falling. The whole house was quiet, except for the storm inside Riley's chest. She stood by the window in the living room, arms wrapped around herself, watching the city lights blink. From here you couldn't even see the street clearly. Just taxis, headlights, tiny lives moving below. She used to be down there, now she was up here. And it felt like any second, someone was gonna call security and tell her, "Sorry, ma'am, we made a mistake." "You don't belong." Behind her she heard footsteps. Ethan, no shoes, just the soft sound of socks on wood. "They're out?" he asked quietly. "Yeah," she said. "Out cold," he nodded, stopping a few feet behind her. The distance between them was small, but it felt huge. For a minute neither of them spoke. The city hummed, the heater clicked, Riley's hands twisted in the hem of her shirt. Finally she exhaled. "I meant what I said earlier," she whispered. "About leaving?" he asked. "Yeah," he swallowed. "You really think that's the answer?" She turned then, really turned. Her eyes were glassy but sharp. "Look at that headline, Ethan," she said. "Just look at it. Billionaire has new family. People don't know my name, my story, nothing. They see my face next to yours and they write their own script." Her voice rose, not yelling, just cracking. "We've been here, a few weeks. They already decided who I am, and I promise you it's not nice." He stepped closer without even realizing it. "Then let them be wrong," he said. "They don't live here. They don't see what's actually happening in this apartment, but they can affect it," she shot back. "They can mess with your company, your kid, my kids. They can call me names. They can drag us. And you know who gets hurt the most when grown-ups act stupid?" She jabbed a finger toward the hallway. "Them. The little ones sleeping down there. They always pay for adult mess." He flinched because she wasn't wrong. He took a slow breath. "Let me ask you something," he said. "If this was just about the blog and just about people talking, would you still want to go?" She opened her mouth, closed it. There it was, the real question. She shifted her weight, looked away. "I'm scared," she admitted. Her voice was small now. No fight left, just truth. "I am so damn scared, Ethan. I've never been more scared in my life." He softened at the word damn in her mouth. "Scared of what?" he asked gently. She laughed weakly. "Pick one," she said. "Scared you'll wake up one day and realize you don't actually want this. Scared you'll feel trapped with some broke girl and her kids. Scared I'm reading this whole thing wrong. Scared I'll let myself believe this is home and then lose it." She pressed the heel of her hand to her chest like she was trying to hold something in. "I can do hungry," she said. "I can do tired. I can do broke. I don't know if I can do heartbreak like that again, not with 3 kids watching." The last sentence came out cracked. He took another step, close now, close enough to see the little scar near her eyebrow. "You think you're the only one scared?" he asked quietly. She blinked. "You're a billionaire," she muttered. "What do you have to be scared of?" He let out a short, humorless laugh. "Are you kidding?" he said. "I've been scared since the day Maddie was born, scared I'd mess her up, scared I'd lose her, scared I'd never be enough, and now," he gestured around them, "now I'm scared of losing this, losing you, losing them." This place was quiet before. It was manageable, predictable. Now it's loud and messy and there's formula on my suits and I can't remember the last time my living room didn't have a stuffed animal in it. He met her eyes. "And I have never been happier," he said simply. "That scares the hell out of me." Riley shook her head, tears slipping free. "You'll get tired of it," she whispered. "You'll get tired of me, of the crying, the drama, the baggage. You'll realize you can date someone with no kids, no trauma, no blog scandals. Some perfect woman who knows which fork to use and never worked a double shift in her life." He stepped in, closing the last bit of space between them. "I don't want a perfect woman," he said. "I want you." The words hung there. Big heavy plane, her breath hitched. "You don't mean that," she whispered. He nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said, "I do." He could have danced around it, could have hinted, could have kept things vague to stay safe. But that blog had already blown up his careful little wall, so he stopped hiding. "Riley, I didn't just open my door to some random stranger in a van," he said. "I opened my life to you. You and those girls walked in here and everything shifted." He took a breath. "I like the way you trip over yourself trying not to accept help and then end up helping everyone else anyway. I like how you talk to the twins like they're grown. I like how you talk to Maddie like she's not just a kid but a person. I like how this place feels when you're in it." His voice dropped. "And somewhere between that first night and right now, I fell in love with you." Silence. The words just sat there. Riley stared at him like she'd misheard. "What?" "I'm in love with you," he repeated, steady this time. "For real." Not thanks for being cute, here's a condo, love. Not I feel bad for you, love. Just love for you, exactly like you are, with your girls, with your loud laugh and your chipped nail polish and your 3 million fears. Her hand flew up to her mouth. The sob broke out before she could stop it. She shook her head hard. You can't say that, she choked. You can't, you don't know what that does to me. I think I do, he said. Because hearing you say you're leaving does the same thing to me. He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed a tear from her cheek. I'm not asking you to jump, he said softly. I'm not handing you a ring and a contract and a press release. I'm just telling you the truth. I love you and I don't want you to go. Her shoulders shook. Words tumbled out of her in pieces. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Every time I trusted someone they walked, they always walk. She blinked hard. When I told the twins' father I was pregnant, he said, that's your problem, and left. When my landlord said I had to go, he didn't care where I ended up. When I asked for help from people I thought were my friends, they suddenly didn't have space. She looked up at him, eyes raw. I can't play with this word, not with you. Not with Maddie, not with my girls. If I say it and this falls apart, I don't know if I get back up again. He felt it then how big this was for her, how high the stakes were, not in some romantic movie way. In a real human, this could break me way. He took both her hands in his. Then don't say anything yet, he said gently. Just stay. Let it be real for a while. See if my actions match my mouth. If they don't, you walk. No questions. If they do, maybe one day you believe it. She searched his face like she was looking for the lie. She didn't find one. The truth was, she already knew. Somewhere in the middle of his late-night bottle runs, the way he'd jump up to rock a twin without complaining, the way he'd read to Maddie while burning dinner, her heart had already done something reckless. She tried to ignore it, tried to name it something smaller. Gratitude, comfort, convenience. It wasn't, not anymore. The words came out before she could stop them. I love you too, his breath caught. What? She laughed through another sob, pressing her forehead to his chest for a second like she needed the contact to say it again. I said I love you too, you idiot, she muttered into his shirt. I didn't mean to, I wasn't trying to. It just happened, he let out a shaky laugh. Yeah, he said, that's kinda how it works. She pulled back just enough to look up at him. I love the way you are with Maddie, she said. How you show up to every little thing like it's the Super Bowl. I love how you act all annoyed about glitter, but you keep buying her craft kits. I love how you didn't freak out when you found 2 screaming babies in your living room. I love that you make hot chocolate from scratch like it's a personality trait. Her voice softened even more. I love how I feel when I'm here, she whispered, like I'm not constantly failing. He looked at her like she'd just handed him the best Christmas gift of his life. You are not failing, he said, not here, not with them, not with me. They stood there, breathing each other's air. The city outside kept buzzing. The blog posts kept existing. But in that moment, it was just them. 2 people who were bruised in different ways, finally admitting the thing they'd both been trying not to name. Riley's grip tightened on his hands. I still don't know how we do this, she said. The internet, the gossip, the logistics. Any of it, we're not gonna figure all that out tonight, he said. But we can decide one thing right now. What? He held her gaze. Are we doing this together, or are we both going back to doing everything alone? The question sat between them like a line on the floor. She'd been on the alone side for so long, it felt like home. But when she pictured stepping back over that line, back into the van, the cold, the hunger, the constant fear, she didn't see home. She saw survival, barely. When she pictured staying, even with the risk, the headlines, the trust she'd have to give, she saw something else. Maddie's drawing, the twins sleeping without shaking, Gloria fussing over the oven. Ethan pacing with a baby on his shoulder at 3 a.m. She saw a life. Her voice was quiet when she answered. Together, she said. He exhaled like he'd been holding that breath for weeks. Together, he repeated. She nodded once like she'd just signed something with her whole heart, then a small voice cut through the moment. So, does this mean we're still a family tomorrow, or is this like one of those things grown-ups say and then bail on? They both jumped a little. Maddie stood in the hallway in her pajama pants, hair wild, teddy bear hanging from one hand. Her eyes were sleepy but sharp. They'd forgotten how thin walls could feel when you're 6. Ethan tried to smile. Hey, bug. What are you doing up? You guys were talking loud, she said. Well, not loud, but heart loud. She squinted at them. You were crying, right? Riley sniffed and wiped her face with the back of her hand. A little, she admitted. Happy crying, I think. Maddie padded closer, bare feet silent on the floor. So, she asked again, are we still gonna be a family tomorrow? 'Cause I need to know if I should keep my drawing up or put it in the trash. Riley's chest cracked open at that. Ethan didn't hesitate. We're still a family tomorrow, he said firmly, and the next day and the one after that. He looked at Riley when he said it, like a promise. Riley felt it land. She nodded, adding her own. I'm not going anywhere, Maddie, she said softly. Not unless this place explodes or something wild like that. You're stuck with me now. Maddie's shoulders dropped. She hadn't even realized how tense they were. Okay, she said like she was filing the information away. Then she narrowed her eyes again. Wait, are you guys like dating now? Ethan choked on absolutely nothing. Riley bit back a laugh. We're figuring it out, she said, but we love each other and we love you and the babies, that's the important part. Maddie considered this. So, like family plus kissing sometimes. Ethan's face went red. Can we not talk about the kissing part right now? He begged. Maddie smirked. That's a yes. She walked right between them, wrapped an arm around each of their legs like she was hugging a tree with two trunks. Okay, she said. As long as we're still a family tomorrow, and the next day, and the one after that. Riley looked at Ethan over her head. He mouthed, we are. Riley mouthed back, we are. Maddie pulled away, already half asleep on her feet. Can I sleep on the couch tonight? She mumbled. Just for like emotional support. Ethan nodded. Yeah, kid, couch is open. She flopped onto it, teddy under her head, blanket half over her. Within 30 seconds, she was out. Again, Riley and Ethan stood there, watching her breathe. The world outside remained messy. The blog posts were still there. People were still talking. But in this room, this weird, imperfect little circle of 5 people, something had shifted. They weren't just the billionaire, the broke girl, the kid, the twins. They were something else now, not just circumstance, not just charity. Chosen. Ethan reached for Riley's hand. She let him take it this time, fingers laced. Grip steady, whatever storm waited outside their front door, they'd at least decided one thing. They weren't facing it alone anymore. The next morning didn't care that everything had changed. The sun still rose. The city still honked. The coffee still needed making. Life kept going. Ethan was already in the kitchen when Riley walked in. She'd slept maybe 4 hours. Her eyes were still a little puffy from crying. Her heart was still doing that weird, too big, too loud thing. But she was here, still in the hoodie, still in this house. He turned when he heard her. Hey, he said softly. Hey, she echoed. It was such a tiny word for what was between them now. He handed her a mug of coffee without asking how she took it. He already knew. She took a sip. It helped, not with everything, but enough. Maddie wandered in a minute later, hair wild, teddy under her arm. She looked at them both. So, she said like she was entering a meeting, we all still here. Riley smiled. Yep, cool, Maddie said, just checking. She climbed onto a stool and started attacking a bowl of cereal like nothing was weird. Kids are wild like that. After breakfast, Gloria took Maddie to the park. Her idea. You two need to talk, she'd said, waving them off. I can handle the small tornado. The twins were down for a nap. The apartment felt strangely quiet. Ethan stood by the counter, hands flat on the marble like he was bracing for turbulence. Riley leaned against the fridge, fingers playing with the edge of a magnet. The weight of last night was still there. But there was something lighter on top of it now. They weren't walking around the word love anymore. It was out, on the table. Now came the hard part, what the hell to do with it. Ethan broke the silence first. So, he said, I've been thinking. Riley snorted softly. Always dangerous. Facts, he said, a small smile. Then he got serious. Look, I know we said together, but together can't just be feelings and vibes and couch sleepovers. You need real stuff, stability, your own footing. She crossed her arms, suddenly wary. If this is your nice way of saying I'll pay you off so you feel safe leaving, I swear to God, it's not, he cut in quickly. It's the opposite, he took a breath. I want you to stay, he said plainly. Not as a guest, not as a charity case, as part of this, but I also know you need your own oxygen. So I've been thinking about ways to give you that without making you feel trapped or bought. She studied him, not saying anything. He took that as permission to keep going. You remember that nonprofit my company funds? He asked. The one that does housing and job training for single parents, she frowned. The place you said you could call if I wanted a shelter spot. It's more than a shelter, he said. They've been trying to scale up. Their director's amazing, but they're drowning. I already pay the bills. They need someone who actually understands what their clients are going through, for real, not from a PDF. He met her eyes. I talked to their director this morning, he said. Told her about you, not in a creepy way, just your work history, what you've been juggling, the fact that you've lived what they're trying to fix. Riley straightened. You talked to her about me? Yeah, he said, and I asked if she'd consider you for a paid spot. Part-time to start so we're not blowing up your schedule with the twins. Admin and client support, real salary, real title. Real resume line, not Ethan's friend who helps sometimes. She blinked, stunned. This was not where she thought this conversation was going. You got me a job, she asked quietly. I got you an interview, he corrected. Nothing guaranteed, you've got to show up and be you. Honestly, that's the selling point. She shook her head, overwhelmed. Ethan, that's huge. It's a start, he said. But it's not the whole thing. He moved around the counter, stood closer, not crowding, just there. I also called my lawyer, he said. And before you freak out, no, this is not a sign here and give up your soul moment. She raised an eyebrow. You are really bad at building suspense, she muttered. He smiled, then sobered. We talked about 2 things, he said. First, a trust fund for the kids. Her eyes widened. Ethan, he held up a hand. Hear me out. Not some wild, they're secret millionaires now thing. Just something that says, no matter what happens between you and me, Maddie, Ava, and Zoe have a safety net. College, emergencies, basic security. He shrugged. I can't guarantee the world won't go sideways, but I can make sure they're not one broken down van away from freezing again. Riley's throat got tight. You do that, she whispered. Even if we didn't, she couldn't finish the sentence. Even if we don't work out, he finished for her. He nodded. Yeah, he said, because I love them too, and my love for them can't be conditional on you never getting tired of my face. She laughed through a tear. Big risk, she said. I could get real tired of your face. Happens, he said. She wiped at her eyes. And the second thing, he looked nervous, not boardroom nervous, real nervous. Elise, he said. She frowned. Elise, there's a smaller unit in this building, he said. 2 bedrooms, lower floor, not as fancy as this, but nice. My lawyer drew up a lease in your name, not mine, yours. Her heart started racing. Ethan, I can't pay. Relax, he said gently. I'm covering it for the first year, okay? After that, we reevaluate based on whatever you're making. We'll work it out. I'm not putting you there to watch you drown. But the point is, you're not just on my couch. He held her gaze. You have an address that belongs to you, a space that's yours to decorate, destroy, baby-proof, whatever. If someday you need space from me, you're not choosing between me and the street. You're choosing between 2 elevators. She stared at him, silent. No one had ever offered her anything like that. Not a free ride, not a ring. Not a sweet talk, a plan, a boring, solid, grown-up plan. That's a lot, Ethan, she said, voice shaking. I know, he said, and I know it might feel like a trap. But it's the only way I know how to show you I'm serious about this not being conditional. He stepped even closer. If you wake up in 6 months and decide you hate my playlists and my face and the way I stack the dishwasher, he said, you still have a home. The girls still have their beds. Maddie still has you down the hall instead of out of her life. Her chin trembled. You really thought all this through, huh? Yeah, he said softly. Because I meant what I said. I don't want temporary with you. But I also know you need to choose this with your eyes open. Not because you're freezing, not because you're hungry, not because you're out of options. He took her hand. I want you to choose it because you want this life, he said. Messy, complicated, very loud life, with me, with Maddie, with your girls, for real. She didn't answer right away. Her brain went into overdrive. Job, lease, trust for the kids, all the things that had always been missing from her story. She tried to imagine saying no, packing up the babies, walking away, starting from scratch. Her stomach twisted, not because she'd be poor again. She knew how to do poor, because she'd be taking this from them, from Maddie, from the twins. From herself, but the fear was still there. What if he changed his mind? What if this was too good to be true? What if this was the part where she fell for the trick and lost everything? He must have seen it all on her face. You don't have to decide right now, he said gently. Take today, take a few days, let it chill in your head, talk to Gloria. Talk to the nonprofit director during the interview. Hell, talk to the building concierge if you want. Just don't say yes because you feel pressured, and don't say no because you're scared. She let out a shaky breath. You're asking a lot from a girl whose anxiety has anxiety, she muttered. He smiled. I know, he said. But I think you can do it. He squeezed her hand once, then stepped back. I'm gonna go wrestle Maddie into real clothes, he said. You go take a walk or something, clear your head. You like the park, right? She nodded slowly. Yeah, she said. Yeah, I do. We'll be here when you get back, he said. No matter what you decide. The way he said it, no guilt, no begging, just certainty lodged itself in her chest. Central Park in winter can be brutal. Today it was just cold enough to sting. Sky pale, trees bare. Riley pushed the stroller along a path, bundled up in her coat and Maddie's hoodie zipped over it. The twins were in matching hats Gloria had dug out of storage. Ridiculous little pom-poms bobbing with every tiny bump. They slept most of the walk. Riley's thoughts did not. She walked past joggers, dog walkers, couples with coffee. Nobody knew her. Nobody cared. She could disappear here and it wouldn't make a sound. She used to find comfort in that. Today it felt empty. She stopped at a bench and sat down, looked down at Ava and Zoe, their lashes, their chubby cheeks. The way their hands had found each other again, even in sleep. She thought about the van, how she'd sat in the driver's seat, engine off, watching their breath fog in the cold, how she'd pulled them tighter, whispering, just one more night, girls. I'll figure it out. She hadn't figured it out. He had. That burned a little. Her pride didn't like that part. But then she thought about the way Ethan had stayed up rocking Zoe when her stomach hurt. The way he'd stood in the doorway listening to bedtime stories like they were the most important meetings on his calendar. The way he'd looked at her last night when he said, I fell in love with you. Her pride got quieter. She also thought about the blog, the comments, the word gold digger popping up in people's mouths like gum. That hurt too. But when she pictured walking away just to prove them wrong, the image of Maddie at the kitchen table popped into her mind. Drawing, labeling, Mom Riley. She pictured that little girl waking up one day and finding her gone, having to redraw her family with an eraser mark where Riley used to be. That hurt more, she exhaled. Her breath fogged in front of her. Out loud to nobody in particular, she said, "Okay, God, universe, whatever, I get it, you're mean." She laughed a little at herself. "You hand me exactly what I've wanted my whole life, a home, a family, a man who doesn't suck, work that actually means something, and then you wrap it in fear and trauma and headlines and make me decide if I'm brave enough to take it." A jogger glanced at her, then away. "New York, nobody cares if you're talking to yourself." She looked back down at the twins. "What do you think?" she whispered. "You like it there?" Ava's mouth twitched in her sleep. Zoe sighed and snuggled deeper into the blanket. They didn't know. Didn't care, they just knew they were warm and fed. It hit her then. Every grown-up reason to run, pride, fear, what people would say, none of it would matter to them. They'd just know if their mom made them leave a place where they were finally safe. Her eyes filled, she wiped them on the sleeve of the borrowed hoodie. "Okay," she said. "Okay, fine, I hear you." She wasn't saying she wasn't scared. She was saying maybe she could be scared and still stay. By the time she pushed the stroller back into the building, her stomach was a knot, but her decision was made. The doorman greeted her by name. "Morning, Miss Hart," he said. That still felt weird, Miss Hart. Not "hey you," not "ma'am," an actual name. She nodded back, "Morning." The elevator ride felt longer than usual. Her palms were sweaty on the stroller handle. When the doors opened, she heard it before she saw it, Maddie's laugh, loud. "For you." She followed the sound into the living room. Maddie was on the floor, building a crooked train track around the coffee table. Ethan was helping by making train noises that were frankly too committed. "Choo-choo coming through, watch your toes, ma'am." He stopped mid-chew when he saw Riley. Their eyes met, everything quieted inside her for a second. "Hey," he said carefully. "Hey," she said back. Maddie popped up. "You're back," she shouted. "We didn't move while you were gone, I checked." Riley laughed, nerves breaking just a little. "Good to know," she said. She parked the stroller, unbuckled the twins, and settled them onto the blanket. Then she turned to Ethan. Her hands were shaking a little, so she clasped them together. "So," she started, "I thought about it." He straightened. "Okay, the job," she said, "the lease, the trust, all of it." His face didn't give much away. He'd learned that in boardrooms, but his eyes, they were too honest. They already looked a little braced for a no. She stepped closer. "I want to interview for the job," she said. "Like, for real. If I get it, I want to work. I want to earn some of this, not just be grateful on your couch forever." He nodded, hope flickering. "Done," he said. "I'll set it up. You can yell at their paperwork and they'll love you." She took a breath. "And I want the lease," she said. "Not because I want to hide from you, but because I need to know that if things go sideways, I'm not dragging my girls back to a van. I need to know I can stay in their lives and in Maddie's life even if you decide I drive you nuts." He swallowed. "I already decided that," he said. "You do drive me nuts." She smirked. "Rude. But I like it," he added. "A lot." The corner of her mouth lifted. Then she dropped the last piece, the one that scared her the most. "And I want this," she said quietly, gesturing between them. "I want us, not just as roommates or co-parents or whatever label makes the internet feel better. I want you. I want this family. I'm choosing it." His breath left his lungs in a rush. He hadn't realized just how much he'd been waiting to hear that. "Are you sure?" he asked, barely trusting his own voice. She nodded. Her eyes were wet but steady. "No," she said. "I'm terrified." He froze. She laughed, a small, real laugh. "But I'm more scared of not taking this shot," she finished. "I'm more scared of going back to just surviving when I could actually live." She wiped her face with the heel of her hand. "So yeah," she said, "I'm sure enough, and if you ever hurt me I will steal your fancy coffee machine and sell it on eBay." He laughed, relief finally crashing over him. "Fair," he said. "Totally fair." Maddie watched all this with huge eyes. "Sue," she said slowly, "does this mean we're like locked in for real, no trial period?" Riley walked over and crouched down to her level. "Yeah, bug," she said, "for real. No trial, I'm staying, we're staying, you're stuck with us." Maddie launched herself at her. Again, at this point it was their thing. "Yes," she yelled, then immediately clapped a hand over her mouth. "Sorry, babies." Zoe stirred, then settled. Ava didn't even flinch. Ethan walked over and wrapped his arms around both of them from behind his daughter, this woman he'd somehow fallen into love with, both within reach. He kissed the top of Maddie's head, then Riley's. "Welcome home," he murmured. Riley closed her eyes for a second, let the words soak in. She knew it wouldn't always be easy. There'd be fights, bills, company drama, teething, toddler tantrums, school projects, more headlines, probably. But for the first time in a long, long time, she didn't feel like she was bracing for disaster. She felt like she was building something, not a fairy tale, not a rescue mission, a life with them together. The snow was back, different year. Same city, but everything else totally different. It was Christmas Eve in New York again. Outside, the streets were dressed up the same way, lights on every balcony, wreaths on doors, steam from subway grates. But this time, Riley wasn't watching it from behind a frosted windshield. She was watching it from the window of her own place, not Ethan's penthouse, the smaller unit down the hall, 2 bedrooms, 1 decent view. A messy shoe rack by the door, a little sign Maddie had made taped to the wall, the chaos apartment, 3 babies, 2 MOMS, 1 tired dad. Riley had rolled her eyes the first time she saw it. She'd left it up anyway. The twins, almost a year and a half now, were in full toddler mode. Ava had discovered the joy of throwing things. Zoe had discovered the joy of yelling about it. They toddled around in Christmas pajamas, little reindeer on the feet, hair sticking up. Maddie, now 7 and absolutely sure she was basically an adult, was on the floor helping Zoe stack plastic blocks. "Okay, Zoe, this one goes here," she instructed. "We're building a tower, not a lawsuit." Zoe knocked it over on purpose and shrieked with delight. "See," Maddie said, chaotic energy. From the tiny kitchen, Riley called out, "No teaching your sister new phrases. I have to explain at daycare, please." Maddie yelled back, "No promises." Riley stirred a pot of sauce, laughed to herself, and wiped her hands on a dish towel. On the fridge, held up by rainbow magnets, were pictures from the last year. The twins' first birthday, Maddie's class play, a photo of Ethan and Riley at some charity event, both dressed up and looking slightly uncomfortable in their fancy grown-up clothes. And right in the middle, still there, a slightly crumpled drawing from last year. 5 stick figures, Dad, Mom in heaven, Mom Riley, Maddie, Ava, Zoe, a messy little family right where everyone could see. The job at the nonprofit had stuck. It hadn't been a handout. Riley had showed up to that interview in her one good shirt, hands shaking, heart racing. She'd told the director the truth about the diner, the van, the babies. About sitting in a car on Christmas Eve thinking she might lose them. When she was done, the director didn't look at her like a case. She looked at her like a coworker. "You want to help other people not end up where you were?" she'd asked. Riley had nodded, throat tight, more than anything. "Good," the director said. "We could use someone who actually understands what survival looks like. You're hired." Now, 6 months in, Riley spent her mornings answering calls from scared moms, scheduling intake appointments, helping women fill out forms that used to make her dizzy. Sometimes she saw herself in their faces, sometimes she saw worse. And every time she went home and hugged her girls a little tighter. She still got tired, she still worried, but she didn't feel useless anymore. She felt needed. By more people than just the 3 kids yelling, "Mom," all day. At first, it had been weird living down the hall from Ethan instead of in his place. Some nights, when she closed the door on her own apartment, her brain whispered, "See. You got separate, now he'll forget." But he never did. Every morning, without fail, there'd be a knock on her door, a small one first. "Mom, Riley, it's me, open up, I miss you already." That was Maddie. Then a bigger knuckle, softly. "It's me, I brought coffee." That was Ethan. Most evenings they ended up in his place, or hers anyway. Kids on the rug, dinners shared, dishes traded, 2 doors, 1 life. It wasn't simple. It wasn't always neat. They argued sometimes. About bedtime routines, about money, about whether it was okay for the twins to eat fries twice in 1 week. "It's potatoes," Ethan said. "That's basically a vegetable." "Nice try," Riley shot back. They had hard conversations. About his long work hours, about her old fears popping up when things got too good, about when or if to tell Maddie the full truth about her first mom. They didn't have all the answers, but they had one rule: no one storms out. No one slams doors. You can take a walk, you can take a breath, but you always come back together. The blog thing, yeah, that had got messy for a while. More articles, more comments, some nice, some cruel. It stung. It made Riley want to disappear some days, but then life did what it does, moved on. Some other scandal popped up. Some other billionaire did something dumber. People got bored. And in the quiet that followed, the folks who really mattered, the neighbors, the nonprofit staff, the parents at school, they didn't judge Riley by a headline. They judged her by how she showed up, at the daycare pickup line, at parent nights. At the shelter, bringing coffee for the woman who hadn't slept in 3 days. After a while, Riley stopped Googling herself. Life was loud enough without that. Back in the kitchen, Ethan walked in, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He'd left work early, on purpose. A year ago, he never would have done that on Christmas Eve. Now, his board could live without him for 1 afternoon. His family could not. "Something smells amazing," he said, dropping his keys in the little bowl by the door. Riley looked over her shoulder. "It's either the sauce or Zoe's diaper," she said. "You're brave, take a guess." He laughed. "I'm betting on sauce." "Bold choice," she said. "You lose if she walks past." He stepped up behind her, kissed her temple, and peered into the pot. "That's not just sauce," he said. "That's like commitment." "Yeah, well, it's our first Christmas doing it this way," she said. "I'm trying not to burn it." He lowered his voice. "You won't," he said. "You didn't burn anything this year," she snorted. "I burned toast twice last week." "Okay, except the toast," he conceded. He slipped his arms around her waist from behind. She leaned back into him for a second. Not because she needed support to stand, because she liked how it felt. In the living room, Maddie called out, "Dinner almost done. I'm starving. I could eat like 3 turkeys and maybe a table." Riley yelled back. 15 minutes, Maddie groaned. That's like 4 years. Ava waddled over and threw a block at Ethan's foot. He yelped. Ow, okay, that's karma for saying fries are vegetables. Zoe toddled behind her sister, arms up, clearly wanting in on whatever chaos was happening. Ethan scooped her up and flipped her upside down. She squealed, thrilled. Chaos goblins, he muttered fondly. Riley watched them, something warm settling in her chest. This was it. Not the money, not the apartment. This. Loud, messy, beautiful. Later that night, after dinner, after dishes, after Ava melted down over the wrong color cup and Zoe tried to climb the bookcase, they all ended up back in Ethan's place. The big apartment. The Christmas tree stood in the corner, a little more chaotic this year. Paper ornaments with handprints, a broken candy cane, a tiny wooden train near the bottom that Zoe kept trying to steal. Presents under the tree weren't wild, books. Blocks, a used guitar Ethan had quietly bought for Riley after hearing her hum the same songs over and over to the twins. They didn't need more stuff, they needed each other. On the couch, Maddie wedged herself between Ethan and Riley. Ava and Zoe sprawled across both their laps, half asleep, bellies full, faces sticky. The TV played some old Christmas movie on low volume. No one was really watching it. They were watching each other. Remember last year? Maddie asked suddenly, eyes on the lights. Riley's chest squeezed. Yeah, she said softly, I remember. Ethan did too. The snow, the van, the fear. He looked around at them now. Warm, safe, not fixed, not perfect. Just okay, better than okay. His eyes met Riley's over the top of Maddie's head. She knew what he was thinking. They were all thinking it, how close they'd come to missing this. One choice, one turn, and their lives would have kept going on completely different tracks. Maddie sighed happily. This is my favorite Christmas, she declared. You say that every year, Ethan said. Yeah, but this time I mean it, she answered, dead serious. Riley smiled. What's different about this one? She asked. Maddie thought, her brows pulled in. Last year, she said slowly, I was still kinda scared you'd all leave. Like it felt like a dream, like I was gonna wake up and it'd just be me and Dad again. Riley's hand found her hair, smoothed it back. And this year, she asked. Maddie shrugged one shoulder. This year, she said, it feels like this is just my life now, in a good way, like I don't go to sleep wondering who's still gonna be here when I wake up. Her voice dropped. I know you'll all be here. 'Cause you stayed. Ethan's throat got tight. Riley's eyes burned. No speech, no present, no big gesture could have topped that. They had stayed, through the awkwardness, through the fear, through bad days and messy mornings and internet nonsense. They were still here, together. Later, after the twins were finally in their crib, after Maddie fell asleep mid-sentence on the couch, Riley and Ethan stood by the window. Same view as last year, different people. Snow drifted down quietly. Riley leaned her head on his shoulder. You know what I'm thinking, she asked, that we definitely overcooked the turkey, he guessed. She smiled. Yes, she said, but also I'm thinking about that night, in the van. If you and Maddie hadn't walked past, he wrapped an arm around her waist. If you hadn't said yes, he countered. They stood there, watching the snow fall on a city full of people who had no idea how close this little family had come to never existing. You think we would have found each other some other way, she asked. He thought about it. Maybe, he said, or maybe this was the way. He kissed the side of her head. All I know is I'm glad we didn't miss it, he said. She nodded against his shoulder. Me too, she whispered. Life didn't magically stop being hard after that Christmas. Bills still showed up, kids still got sick, work still stressed them out. Old wounds still stung sometimes for both of them. But now when the hard days came, they didn't hit alone. There were extra arms to carry the weight, a hand to reach for in the dark, a couch that was always crowded, never empty. And a little girl who didn't go to bed wondering if her family would still be there in the morning. Because they would, every time. Even in a world that breaks and bends us, even when money fails, even when plans get wrecked, sometimes two people with more scars than answers choose to stay. Choose to love, choose to build something out of what's left. And that choice, over and over again, is what turns a warm apartment with 4 walls and a Christmas tree into a home. Sometimes it's not the miracle you were praying for that saves you. It's the small, tired choice to take someone's hand when you're sure it's going to slip away. It's saying stay when you're used to saying I'll be fine alone. It's letting love in even when your whole past is screaming at you to run. Because in a freezing city, on a night that could have been just another bad memory, a scared mom in a broken-down van, a billionaire with more money than peace, and a little girl with a missing piece in her heart decided to trust each other just a little. And that little was enough to change everything. For them, for the 3 small lives watching, for a house that finally became a home. Because sometimes the hardest chapters don't mean your story is over. They're just the pages that teach you how to begin again. If this story hit you in the heart, if you've ever felt broken, tired, or like life was 2 steps ahead of you, remember this. Hope doesn't always show up in perfect timing or with pretty wrapping. Sometimes it's a kid in a pink hat, a stranger who doesn't walk away, or a second chance you almost say no to because you're scared it might not last. But love that's real, it doesn't come to rescue you and then disappear. It shows up, stays through the mess, and helps you build something new one small, shaky choice at a time. If you're going through your own hard season right now, you're not weak, you're not a burden, and you are not done yet. You're just in the middle of your story. If you want more stories like this, real struggle, real tears, and real hope, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and drop a like so this video can reach someone who might need a reminder that they're not alone. Tell me in the comments which moment in this story hit you the hardest, and what are you still holding on for? Because even on the coldest nights when everything feels stacked against you, there's always one truth left. Even in darkness, hope still whispers, keep going.